right. Hi there, this is your friendly neighborhood English teacher, Miss Shirley. This is a recording for freshman English subplans for October 2nd, Thursday, October 2nd, and Friday, October 3rd. I'm going to go over both days here, so if you need to skip ahead, if you need to watch this for Friday, you can do so. So I'm going to start here with the literary analysis. This is the Analyze a Model narrative. So this is the work for Thursday, October 2nd. The document that I have pulled up here, it is available online in Google Classroom. It is available as a material, so you will need to go up to the File tab and make a copy if you would like to type this. This is also available on paper. It might be easily accessible on paper, so you can decide if, I know some of you prefer to type. To complete this work, we're going to practice identifying key narrative elements in a model story before we write our own. So we are gearing up next week when I return to the classroom. We are going to reflect on a time in our life when maybe we had to make a choice to stand out, or we made a choice and we knew that maybe it wasn't the most popular decision, but we're going to focus on an experience or a memory from our life, maybe that we kind of see from Stargirl. So in order to do that first, we're going to look at some example narratives. So here through the top, I have a total of 4. You are only going to be given 1. So the substitute will have a pile of these example model narratives. So you might get 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if you get model narrative 1, you're going to read about standing up for others. If you get model narrative 2, you're going to read about the designer trap. If you get number 3, that one is called the missed note. And if you get number 4, that one is called Tommy takes the stage. So all 4 of these are examples of a personal narrative that a student might write. So let's say I was just given model narrative 1. So that one is standing up for others. So on my worksheet, I would put in standing up for others. Right? I would either write or type it in. So now I'm going to look at my chart and I'm just going to kind of work through these boxes and I'm going to look for these things in the narrative. So here are some literary elements that you're going to look at that we have been talking about for Unit 1. If you need a reminder or aren't sure what this element means, go back to your class notebook in your student notes section. These were actually the first set of notes that we put in at the start of the year. So first, you're going to look at characters or characterization. So how is the character described? We're also going to look at setting. You'll look at conflict and you'll just get to mark whichever one you find. Climax. What is the turning point of the story? The highest, most dramatic moment. The resolution. What is the theme or the lesson to be learned here? What point of view is the story written from? And then what are some vivid details or sensory language or dialogue that's used? So you can select from that option, or you can give a quote or a paraphrase, and you'll write that or type it into this first column here. So for instance, for setting, I would type a quote or a paraphrase, but for conflict, I can just pick whichever one. And then, so after I've identified and kind of shown where these elements are taking place in my story, right? Because I'm reading through this, looking for characterization and setting and all of that. Oh, messing that up. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to think about, why was this effective? Why did that work well? So maybe for characters, maybe it made them more interesting or it made them feel more real. Maybe having the setting where it was just really helped the story move along. Maybe having the conflict of person versus self just taught the main character something important. So you aren't having to write anything today. Like, you're not having to come up with your own story. You're looking at the example and you're thinking about, okay, how do these literary elements work together, kind of in a final finished product like this. So when you've done that work, you have one last part to this. You're going to do a little bit of reflection. So after you kind of had looked at that model narrative and you've looked at those literary elements, what is something you want to make sure you do really, really well in your writing? So you could pick any one of these literary elements that's here. And, why is it going to be important that you do really well with it for your essay? Do you want to make sure that your point of view is the same throughout the whole story? Do you want to have a really good lesson so that a reader could take something away from it? Maybe you kind of feel that ending a story is tough for you, so you want to make sure that you do a really good job for this assignment. So you're just going to pick one thing that you really want to focus on, and you'll put it in these lines down here. So again, that was for Thursday, October 2nd lesson plan. Now I'm going to move on and I'm going to talk you through what Friday, October 3rd, what that is going to look like. So yesterday, you looked at an example, a model narrative, and you looked through and you kind of found some literary elements from it. Today, you're going to start brainstorming your own ideas, right? Because again, we're getting ready to write a personal narrative. So this is your chance to kind of generate and think of some ideas before we settle in and choose a topic. So I have 3 different prompts for you. They're all listed here. For each prompt, I want you to think about one possible personal experience, something that you have gone through, something that you remember. This could be from high school. This could be from middle school or elementary school. It could be something that happened at another school or on a sports team or at church. One thing that I will say, and I'll remind you of this next week, just make sure that whatever it is you're choosing, it's something that you're comfortable with people knowing about you. So if it's kind of a more sensitive topic that you don't really want to talk about, then don't include it here, right? Also, if you're going to choose a topic that involves like drugs, alcohol, sexual abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, that I am a mandatory reporter. Miss Flicker, Miss Gadberry, our paras, they are mandatory reporters. Our substitute, Mr. Moot, is a mandatory reporter. So just kind of be aware of what you are choosing to write about. So that's the narrative writing disclaimer. If it's anything having to do with, illegal activity or things that go against our student code of conduct, that is something we would have to report. Okay. So I know kind of some serious, kind of some heavy things, but here are the prompts you're going to look through. And these will be the prompts. You're going to pick one, and this is what your personal narrative will be about. So, we kind of want to explore and think about what is really going to come up with a good story for me. So prompt 1, standing up for something, knowing the outcome might not be in your favor. So here, just kind of explain what is that possible experience. Just give a brief description, and then think through some key details. What was the issue? What lesson could be learned from this? What could be a possible theme? And where did it take place? So your setting. Here's your second prompt. When have you ever tried to change to try and fit in? Here's your third prompt. When have you you standing out doing something you enjoy? So you maybe kind of had made a different choice than someone, and not everybody maybe agreed or was doing the same thing, but you didn't really mind. You kind of enjoyed what it was, and so you were able to do that. Here for step 2, you're going to narrow down to your favorite. So after you've kind of brainstormed and filled this information in, go back up and circle or star the idea you are most excited about. Maybe something that really, really, seems interesting, or you feel that you could complete this assignment over. And then here, why are those ideas meaningful to you? Why do you think you are most excited about that? Here in step 3, after you've kind of gotten an idea of what you might want to write about, you're just going to go ahead and talk about the characters, who is involved. You'll be a little more detailed in the setting, so think about the time and the place. What is that main conflict going to be? And then what is a lesson or theme that someone could take away from your story? So just remember, we are just brainstorming. We're thinking of ideas. You can think about this over the weekend if you need to, but you should definitely get a start to it in class. But we will meet back together on Monday, October 6th, and really kind of decide and get approval on the topic we choose. So here with your scene snapshot, you can go back and use the work that you already have here in the key details, right? You could add a little bit more, a description to it because you have a little more room. But that's kind of the brainstorming document. Okay. If you don't have access to this yet, that might be because it's still needing to post. So if you're looking at looking at this recording on October 2nd, you won't have access to this yet because it will post and be available to you on paper October 3rd, Friday. All right. So there you go. Watch that back over if you need anything repeated. Hope you're doing well. And I will see you on Monday. All righty. Bye-bye.